Hi, this is Jay Cruz and welcome to this video of how we generated $60,000 in recurring income in just 6 months. Okay, we're going to break down the whole thing and explain it to you today with a particular focus on the sales strategy, right? Now, with that said, my name is Jay Cruz and I help agencies to scale super quickly, build recurring income, and increasing trust and reducing resistance very, very quickly, right? And the faster we can do that, the more sales we're going to close, and the easier we'll be able to sort of build our businesses and our agencies. So with that said, let's jump onto the screen, right? Let's check this out. First of all, I want to draw our attention to, if you're wondering what Ascension is just our agency program, high level, right? For people who want to jump in, scale to 6 to 7 figures with their agencies very quickly, selling a digital service, which they don't even have to fulfill themselves. But today's not about that. Today's about any agency scaling to that 60K in 6 months and how we did it in recurring income, right? And how you can too. So Ascension is just the plan, and in 12 months we sort of push to get people there. But let me just focus on the 3 pillars here that we found, right? After doing this for a very, very long time. And it comes down to 3 major things. We've got the foundational outreach. If you've got that in place, we typically push for cold email infrastructure and outreach, getting up to 15,000 cold emails every single month, right? As soon as we get to that, we'll then scale that to 30,000 and beyond, right? And we've got some people sending 30, 40, 50, 100,000 emails every single month. Typically speaking, you're looking at 10,000 emails to close one deal, is the general average right now that I've seen across lots of agencies out there, and a good industry sort of standard. The whole idea though is even if you're doing cold email outreach, or I should say you're doing any sort of paid ads and things like this, absolutely fine. We use both in our business. But the whole idea is you want to be getting this. This is very important for building an agency, right? You want to be getting regular responses coming in. So you're getting bookings, you're getting responses, and you're getting leads that are interested to work them, right? The next stage is to convert, and finally then to scale. In conversion, we want to talk about how we can stack up $10,000 packages. It's up to us in our businesses, but we tend to, if it's cool to dive into this real quick, if that's all right with you. I'm not going to admonish people for charging less than $1,000, $2,000 a month. I understand, depends on your packages and what you're offering, but we want to be looking at the market in a way where we're like, right, which industry, which businesses are going to be able to pay me $10,000, $15,000 a month for the value we provide, right? We have a content marketing sort of product that we sell by creating content, publishing all over the internet. We have a really, really cool software to do that. To grow organic traffic. But if you're selling SEO, if you're selling design stuff, doesn't matter what you're pushing, even paid ads. The whole idea is we want to be, as opposed to a lot of people want to get to $10,000 a month very quickly, and beyond that, and push to 6 to 7 figures. It's going to be a hell of a lot harder and take a hell of a lot longer to do that if we're charging 500 or 1,000 a month, right? Suddenly you need 10, 12, 15 deals as opposed to just one deal at 10K per month. Right? So if we do that, the whole idea is we want to get to 5K per month. And this is how we sort of train people when they come in to our agency sort of group and a mastermind, if you like, even though I hate that word nowadays, but there you go. And the whole idea is then once we've got that sort of infrastructure in place, we've got people coming in, regular responses, we're converting them and selling big packages and knowing how to structure those and how to price those and price anchoring and lots of really cool stuff in there. We then move to scale, which is hiring talent. Sourcing talent's one thing, but you need to hire and be able to train them very, very quickly. Because if you can do that, you can give them the processes and the structures in your business, and they can replicate what you've done in the first 2 steps here. But today I want to focus on this one here. Sorry, there we go, this one, which is convert, okay? So let's talk about that and how we hit that 60K in 6 months in our business. And really, it comes down to this. This is the master plan right here. It's got a bit lopsided, so we'll zoom in and go through these one by one. But the whole idea is to convert. We've actually sort of cracked the code on this and built a seamless process whereby we are focused on 3 major calls. Okay. So you've got the qualification anti-selling call is what I call it. We then have the deep dive disco call or discovery call. I call it disco because it's like time to dance, right? Almost, it's exciting. And then finally, if needed, we've got the decision call. So I'm going to explain why that's the case in just a second, right? So we'll start off with the qualification anti-selling call. The whole idea of the initial qualification is to make sure you're speaking with a business who can afford what you have and that will continue paying you monthly, because this is about recurring income, for 12 months and beyond. So a good thing to say and test with people when you're speaking to them is, look, results, are long-term, right? And we should be working together as a partnership longer term. Are you happy, willing, able to invest for at least 12 months to push forward? If you're not, if you don't have the money to put down for 12 months, even though this is a monthly thing, it's probably not going to be a good fit, because, with us, again, we do content marketing, right? Content marketing stacks. It's got the best ROI hands down, but even then, it's important to explain that to businesses. So it doesn't matter what you're selling to them. Even with paid ads, they need to have consistency, right? Or whatever else you might be selling, even SEO, irrespective of what you're pushing. But they need to understand that it takes a while, to really see the big results. And in fact, we take it a step further and say, you're actually investing this year for next year, right? So a full 12 months to smash this out, lay down the foundation of stacking content, becoming omnipresent, being absolutely everywhere, bringing in organic traffic from lots of different places. Because again, with our platform, we can, we find buyer intent topics by doing what we call question mixing, if you like, or question buyer mixing, which is all about finding all the questions that people have before making a buying decision. We lay them out. Often there's thousands of these hidden ones in lots of niches, right? Once we've laid those out, we then repurpose, in 8 formats of videos, articles, blog posts. We've also got, and the videos are short and long form, by the way, sort of social ready. We've got the podcast interviews, which are beautiful, all automatically done. We've got infographics, we've got flip books, and then we distribute all of that content across 300 authority sites. And so it brings organic traffic. And if they're consistent, and the more they do, obviously they'll get better returns. So we explain that at the very beginning, right? So that's the whole idea of qualification. Now, we then, and also just a note on that, I think a lot of people try to just close deals no matter what. Don't do that, right? Because you're going to end up working a hell of a lot harder for clients who are just going to be a pain in your butt. And you'll probably want to pay them, let alone take payment from them, for them to leave you alone eventually, right? So you want the best clients who leave you alone, get on with it, let you get on with it. They're long-term thinkers, and they're willing to invest for 12 months. So they're not looking over their shoulder every month and going, where's my results, right? Cool. Okay. And that's provided you actually do what you say and you've got a good service that's proven, right? And actually gets results. So, and I'm sure that's the case, right? Hopefully. Anyway, the first thing we're going to do, and I'm obsessive with this, is you remove the sale at the very beginning of that first conversation. As an example of that, if I was speaking to you, if you're watching this right now, I'd say, hey, really good to have you on. Just while and after you got the niceties out of the way, where are you from? Blah, blah, blah. I'd say, right, okay, so let's dive into this. Before we begin though, is it cool if I just lay something out and be super frank? Is that okay? They typically say, yes, we love that. We're frank. We're business owners. Let's do this. And I'll say, well, I'm actually going to unfortunately say this, but, or the way to lay it out is, unfortunately, there is nothing for sale on this call. I hope that's okay with you if you're expecting that. I'm sorry to disappoint you, because today is all about understanding your business and really getting, deep into what you're doing, what you need, whether we can even help you, and all those things. Is that cool with you? Is that all right? They'll typically say, yeah. Some people even say that's quite refreshing. And then I'll say, perfect. Well, if that's the case and you're happy, let's move on to the agenda. An agenda is very important to show your stuff, you've got a plan, and you're not going to talk forever, or sort of take them on a wild journey, which they have no idea about. So this gives them the feeling of autonomy. They know what's coming. You respect their time, and you know what you're talking about, right? And so typically I pick 3 things. I pick 3 things for the agenda because it's just an easy number. 3 is the magic number, if you like. And then I set that agenda by saying, right, number 1, we're going to talk through your business, see where you're at right now, and see, what your goals are, which we'll talk about in a second. We'll talk about where you want to go, and what you're trying to achieve. And then we'll talk about maybe, discussing this on a deep dive call and agree together if we want to do that. And if not, that's completely cool. But we'll discuss that. Is that okay with you? Does that sound good? Is there anything you'd like to add to that agenda? Bang, job done, right? That's all you need to do. If you do those 2 things, you've removed the sale. Trust is doing what? It's going up. And then finally, if you set an agenda and give them the autonomy, like they feel like they're on your side of the table, as opposed to, you know, if you imagine a table, there's two people staring at each other. You don't want that. You want them to, you know, or you to take your chair around, if you might have seen this in movies and stuff, and looking at the problem together. So you're on the same side, right? So then you take them through, and there's going to be we've got lots of videos on this stuff. There's actually a separate video coming out very soon, so watch out for that, where I go through the qualification call in detail, as well as implementing my own proprietary pivot system. It's all about pivoting, right? And sort of pushing for change when change is difficult for businesses, right? Because they're buying from you is going to be a change, of course. And then selling through questions is the whole idea. I know it might sound obvious, but a lot of people, like I've seen salespeople who say it's obvious and completely screw this up, right? So questions. And if you do this properly, they sell themselves, right? And so what does a pivot system look like? Well, a super high level overview. On this call, what you want to do is start off with their goal. So I'd be like, hey, okay, so you've jumped on this call. What motivated you to jump on? What are you trying to achieve? Okay. So that's a very important question, because all the bullshit out the way, they're going to tell you why they're there, what they need, and what they're looking for. And then, you know, and sometimes at this point you might say, and it might occur to you that it's not going to be a fit regardless, because, you know, they thought that you do paid ads if you don't, or they thought you do content if you don't, or whatever, right? So that's an important question to save you some time. And it also gives you an opportunity to cement your authority, because you can say something like, you know, I want to know that you actually need what we have. And then if they say, yeah, so as an example, we want to get more organic traffic, we're doing lots of content, but we don't seem to be getting anywhere. I'll be like, okay, so why do you think that's the case, right? And of course, again, I'm going to deep dive in another video of how to really wide probe in a ninja way that gets them to sell themselves. But you can dig into that a little bit, right? And say, well, why is that not working? What's your challenge around that? And blah, 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 blah. Then we move on to number 2, which is current actions. So this is high level overview. If you do this alone, you'll be able to get some traction, right? Current actions is, well, what are you doing right now to fix the problem, or or what are you doing right now to achieve that goal? More importantly, well, right now we're doing blogs on our site, and the blogs look like this. Can I have a look? Yes, you can. Okay, well, I can see what the problem might be. Who writes this? Who's doing this? Blah 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 blah. How much are you spending on this? And then suddenly they'll, as you're asking questions, they're thinking, shit, like, what's wrong with the blog? And you're like, well, do you see the headline? Like, do you see why the headline's not actually answering a question that your buyer might have and stuff like that? Like, do you know stuff like, no, not really, and it goes on and on, right? So then I'd move on to why it's not, working. And this is massive, because I can easily say, okay, so you've got current actions. Well, why are your current actions not working? And I've kind of alluded to that already. And then they're going to say something like, that's a really good point. I'm paying a company, 10 grand a month, and they are not providing the solutions. And I'm like, okay, so let's take a really quick look at your competitors. And I might ask them, who's your biggest competitor that you want to sort of match? They give me the competitor. We take a look at what they're doing. And they might have, 5 posts going out a day versus these guys who have got just 1 post, let's say. And their content is beautiful. It answers the question a lot of buyers have. Very specifically, it's laid out in a beautiful way, and it's not AI junk, let's say, right? And then as I'm asking, can you see how this becomes beautiful? I'd say something like, okay, well, let me ask you, what do you think you need to do to compete with this competitor? After outlining, oh, wow, look, they're doing this, they're doing that. And I'm not selling anything, right? That's the beauty of this. By the end, they're going to go, holy shit, like, yeah, you're right. We need to do more content. The content needs to be better structured. The topics we pick needs to be way, way better, and we need to distribute to more places. Bingo, right? And now at that point, I'm like, okay, awesome. So thank you for jumping on the call. I think, we've got a fit here, because I think you're at the right revenue level and whatever your criteria might be. And I'll repeat that back and say, and this is a very important question at the end. I would say not, let's book in another call. No, you don't want to do that, because that's needy. I would say, look, I love what you're doing. I love your business. I think we can definitely help. But where would you like to take the conversation from here? That question is gold, because now they're in control and you'll get a real feel for where they're at. And typically, if you've done your job properly and qualified them properly, and to get to this stage, they need to be the right business. Otherwise, you should have said no to them earlier and said, unfortunately, it's not going to work, right? But if you've got to this stage, they're a good fit. They know that, and they should quite easily be happy and willing to jump onto call number 2, right? Which is our disco call. Here we go. There we go. Our deep dive disco call. So what happened on the disco call, and again, this is high level overview. If you want to see me dive into each and every one of these calls in detail and actually outline the agenda, the script and everything, please watch out for that. Those videos some of them are available, so check them out on our channel. But others are coming as well. So please keep your eyes peeled. But anyway, so the first thing we want to do is recap the qualification call, right? You know what their problems are. You know what their challenges are. You know what motivated them to book the call. So you can lay all of this out. Yeah. It's a really good tip to record your calls, get the transcript and bash that into Claude AI. So Claude.ai, we use a lot of, it's this tool here. Or of course you've got ChatGPT. And here, as an example, one thing I do a lot is, let's say I can go to Zoom. I'll just do this super quick off the cuff, but I'll go to Zoom, sign in. I do this every day and I love it, right? It just makes me I'm not very organized naturally, but this makes me just as if I've got 3 assistants, and my business partner's like, Jay, I don't know what you're doing, but your output is just blown up, right? So anyway, I go to recordings and transcripts. Let's say I had a conversation over here, right? This is an essential call. I'll take the audio only. Actually, no, I don't do that. I take the audio transcript and look what happens. Bang, as if by magic, it's already there. Right click, select all, copy, go to Claude, paste. Look how easy this is, right? Then I'll say something like, give me a recap of the main points from this call. I need 1, pain point, 2, solution, 3, next steps. And if you guys comment on the video, what I can do is actually give you our prompt here. So this is our entire prompt. We've got lots of step 1, step 2, and we have pre-call processes where we research the prospect. But here you go. So just had a call with this lead. Please fill in the following thing. Ad spend currently, like it's all laid out, right? And we've even got a discovery call prompt before discovery calls. We lay it all out. Company, leadership. If you want this, just comment in the thread. But it's as simple as this. Even if you don't have that, you can literally just do this, because I've got the whole transcript, and bang, watch this. This is beautiful. Pain point: Dr. Kathleen is practicing general surgeon who wants to start a marketing agency specific for plastic surgeons. Brand new agency, no clients, time constraints, bang, bang, bang. So you've got everything. So there's no excuse not to know what the recap is, yeah? And you want to keep that nice and brief and really dig into the emotional pain points that they outlined if you did this skillfully on the qualification call. And they know that you actually give a shit, you've been listening, and you're committed to the solution, right? Okay, then you set another agenda. Very important. A lot of people don't do this because they're like, oh yeah, well, they kind of know what the call's about. Bullshit. They don't know what the call's about because they're busy. They've left you on the qualification call and then they've gone into their world again. We need to bring them back into our world. We need to bring them back into their pain, their problem, and the solution they need, right? So set the agenda again, 3 things. And they are typically the problem. You can say, hey, this is the problem we found. I also did a competitor analysis for you so we can see how the problem, or how big the problem might be of you catching your competitors, right? Because if they can catch competitors, they're fixing the problem, obviously. Then you can say, I'll present a solution and this is rock solid conviction. I've put that in there because what you want to be doing is, once you've found out what their problem is, you need to tell them that you can fix it. A lot of people shy away from this because they feel it's salesy. It's not. Because if you've done this properly, you've listened on call 1. Now you've listened again because you've actually relayed that you've listened on the recap, and they know you're in control with setting the agenda. You've laid out the problem in detail, so they know exactly that, or they know that you know the problem exactly, right? You get permission from them and say, hey, is there anything I missed out? Please let me know. I want to make sure I hit this on the money. If not, then please, I might have missed something. I'm only human, right? That shows vulnerability, shows that you care. They'll let you know, and then bang, you can say, listen, Fred, Peter, Barbara, Susan, I've listened. I love what you're doing. And I think, here's the plan. I genuinely think if you were to increase your blog sort of consistency, improve the headlines, write better blogs that are, not just AI junk, and you did that on a consistent basis, you'll be able to catch your competitors very, very quickly. And then if you distributed that blog all over the internet in the form of a news article, a blog post on blog sites, a podcast, a video, this is what our platform does, right? It depends on what you sell and how you're positioning your offer, but that's what we do. I would hit that that nail on the head with the solution and not be afraid to say, yes, we can absolutely help you. And, the future looks bright. So we're bringing them back up emotionally. And then finally, before presenting the commercials, I would say, right, is there anything else you want to go over? And where would you like to sort of take the conversation from here? Notice I don't go into the commercials unless I've said that, right? That's very important. And then they will typically say, no, well, $1 million question, what's the pricing? And you'll say, okay, well, I haven't mentioned pricing before because I wanted to get a handle on the problem to know we can actually solve it properly before any commercials are covered, right? And just a quick tip, if you're setting an agenda, if you're doing a recap and somebody comes in and says, oh, by the way, Jay, can you just get to the pricing? Like, how much does this cost? I will revert back to this. And I'll say, yeah, that's a great question. Totally. I can get, and typically, actually, real quick, at the end of the qualification call, I give them an idea of what we start at. Don't give them pricing, but I give them an idea of what we start at so it doesn't scare them away. And if they then are still interested, I know that they can afford it and they have no issues with that. This is one thing we found when we were building up to 60K per month in revenue, is a lot of people were falling off at the beginning and we couldn't understand why. And it was because when we brought them onto the discovery call, in our sales process, they'd fall off and not sort of buy or not turn up for a decision call. And it was mainly because we told them the price and they were shocked by it, or they were like, holy shit, they already had an idea of how much the price would be between this call and this call. And then of course it's just an anticlimax. Whereas if you ready them for it, they're like, oh, it begins at that. Holy shit. Now they're anchoring the other way. Because now they're thinking, well, this might be 10 grand or 15 grand. Let me, because it all depends on, because we offer a prescribed solution. So by the time we jump on this call, they already are expecting the minimum of 4 or 5K a month or whatever it might be that you start at. But then, they're ready to go. Okay. So then that's what I would do. And I say, look, I just want to get a handle on the problem, go over the recap, make sure I've got the problem locked and I know that what the solution is and you're happy with that before we cover the commercials. Is that okay with you? Is that cool? And typically they say, yeah, because, oh, wow, you actually want to know and you want to do this properly rather than do what most salespeople do, which is blah, 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 talking 8% of the time, not listening, and trying to, shove a sale down someone's throat. Okay, so if you do all that correctly, typically speaking, you can get a sale on the disco call, which is why I call it disco, right? Because you can dance around and enjoy that and celebrate. But in all seriousness, if you play this right, typically at the end of this, they'll go, yes, this sounds awesome. You present the pricing that's prescribed exactly to their problem. And they'll want to sort of say something like, yeah, this sounds good. I just need to speak to a partner or I need to do whatever. And I'll be like, yeah, sure, no worries. And obviously you want to make sure at the qualification stage, you are speaking to a decision maker. So you don't get all the way here and wasted your time, because they'll say, oh, I'll speak to the boss. And you're like, what the fuck? You're not the boss, right? So that's fine. And then they'll typically say, give me a few days. And I'll be like, yeah, sure. There's no pressure. But let me book in your onboarding call now if you're definitely interested, because our onboarding team, which for us is our customer or our key account management team, CAM team, they get very busy. So I can slot you in now. Otherwise you might have to wait a couple of weeks. And typically if they're interested, that's a good way to test it. They'll say, yeah, hell yeah, book me in. And I'll be like, all right, let's do it. And then we book them in and now they've got a commitment. And then, the next 3-5 days, whatever, we close them. And if they need another call, that's when you say, all right, well, if you want to hop on another call, or if you send them the link and the stuff here on this call, if they ask for it, great. Otherwise, you'll say, perfect. Well, let's lock in another call if you want before the onboarding call, and we can do this. Or if they're not ready to close yet, don't push the onboarding call either. I would say, fine, okay, let's do that. Let's just jump on another call. How long do you need? They might say a week. Okay, let's meet the same time next week. You don't call it a decision call, by the way. This is internal language, yeah? And you'll say, no worries, we'll jump on that call. And just to reassure them that they're not going to be just sold and sort of, pushed on the sale, you can say, yeah, we can have a nice, easy catch up and I'll cover any questions you have and make sure that you don't have any concerns. So it would be a pure Q&A and then we can decide which way to move forward, either which way, I'm totally happy with that. Does that sound good? And so you've taken the pressure away. The big mistake a lot of people make on the decision call is they'll call it a decision call, number one, fucking pressure's through the roof. But secondly, what they'll do is they'll say, yeah, let's jump on a call and get this deal done. It's like, no. That's why people avoid that call. They're like, oh man, they're going to pressure me into a sale. And they might not be sure. They might have questions, right? And so you say, look, the call is purely about questions. And, we've gone through a lot of information over the last sort of few weeks. and I want to make sure you're fully happy with everything. I've answered every question you have. Not necessarily about closing the deal on the day. It would be nice if we can do that, but it's fine. Either which way, I want to make sure your questions, your concerns are addressed, and then we can decide together which direction we want to go in. How does that sound? Right? And so that's it. And then when you jump on that call, you recap the high-level prescribed solution, and you do the Q&A, and you close the deal. All right? That's all that call should do. And if you find that it's not, you've obviously, you fudged it somewhere, which means this process needs to be looked at. And again, we've got lots of videos on each and every one of these, on the pivot system as well, on the way that I sell and have sold over the last sort of 12 years, right? And how we built our 8-figure company as well, doing this sales process. So anyway, lots of videos. Please check them out, like, subscribe, and all that kind of stuff, and let me know. But I'm just going to jump on camera real quick and finish this video off. Okay, so there you go. That's the steps that we take. Around 3 steps, maybe a little bit more, but there you go. Still nice and tight with that, of how we scaled to 60K in MRR, so monthly recurring revenue, in just 6 months. 6 months to 60K, and how you can as well. Hopefully you enjoyed that. We've got lots more videos on how to generate leads, how we do paid ads, all the way through to each of those calls. So the qualification call, deep dive disco call, decision call. We've got videos on all of those coming very soon. We've also got an entire video on our sales process, the agenda, the scripts, and everything. So look out for those, watch them if you're interested, of course. If not, that's cool. And I will catch you on the next video. Thank you very much. If you liked what you saw today, subscribe for more of these videos. We've got lots more coming. If you're looking to scale your agency without the awkwardness, to reduce the resistance and increase the trust very quickly, that's what we're masters at. So thank you very much, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye.